Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and last night we got the finale of Andor Season 2 and the Andor as a series, episodes 10, 11, and 12. And yeah, I gotta say, this is exactly how you gotta end it, right? Like, it felt, both surprising in some of the stuff that we got, but also, like, it fully fulfilled a lot of things that, we had to get to. We know exactly that. We've known the whole time it's going to end where Rogue One begins, so you're like, all right, these pieces have to like fall into place exactly like this, that way you can turn on Rogue One and it's as if you're watching just the next episode, and it really feels that way, and I'm really happy with how this all ended up. So it's also kind of funny knowing how right before Rogue One starts, so many of our characters like have just these interesting fates, especially for some of the villains here. Like, so much just happened the day previously and nobody talks about it, so it's kind of funny. But anyways, basically, yeah, so Luthen and Clea, these first two episodes are a lot about them, and we finally get to see some backstory as to like what is Luthen's deal. And it just seems he was an Imperial soldier, and he was on some mission where he just couldn't take it anymore, that they were doing all these horrible things. We never find out what planet they were on or specifically what was happening, but that is where he meets Clea, who had snuck aboard their ship, and he basically takes her on as a daughter, and like, all right, we're gonna escape, we're gonna leave these people, we're gonna change our names, we're gonna go here and there. I'm pretty sure they go to Naboo at some point, and he basically just teaches her how to survive and how to, hide your identity and all that stuff. And that's basically what they've been doing ever since. So, we don't really get to see the point when he started trying to create a rebellion, or when he, first met Mon Mothma, or how any of that got set up. But, it really was just Clea trying to remember Luthen and all these flashbacks. So basically what ends up happening is Luthen gets a call from Lonnie. I need you, Lonnie, I need all the heroes I can get, that whole speech, right? Anyways, that was my that was my Luthen impression. I think it's pretty good. Anyways, so Lonnie contacts him, basically saying, hey, I snuck into Deidre's files because she's been looking for you forever, right? I snuck into her files. I think she's about to find you. She's found some trace back to you. But also, I found much more important stuff, and I need to get this to you before, either you get taken away or I get taken away, because I'm pretty sure they know I was looking at those files. But it was really important. So basically, he's learned everything that's going on with the Death Star. He knows about Scarif and Galen Erso and the Kyber on Jeddah, and basically everything, how Gorman was related to all of that. And he tells all this to Luthen, and this is like, if I had to sum up what Luthen's whole deal was, like what makes him different from all the other rebels like Mon Mothma and stuff, this is basically what it is. Luthen gets this information and he promises him, all right, I'm going to take you and your family to Yavin, you're going to be safe there. And remember, this guy emphasized, I have my wife and my daughter, I have them hidden somewhere, but we need to get off this planet. And of course, Luthen just shoots him, right, and leaves his body on the park bench to be found. And it makes sense from Luthen's perspective to do this. It's very much like at the beginning of Rogue One, Andor had to shoot that guy because he can't risk him getting captured by the stormtroopers, so he had to kill that guy. And Luthen's really doing the same thing here, where it's like, hey, you just brought me this incredibly sensitive information. I can't risk you getting caught and telling anyone about me or my operation, so you gotta die, and it's like, damn. Lonnie was a real one, like he saved their asses so many times, like even in the last arc, like the ISB agent that was there, that was Lonnie's doing, and Lonnie probably sent her and then turned around and told Luthen, hey, one of Bale's people is gonna be an ISB agent, like that was all from Lonnie, So, man, for him to go out like that, I feel so bad for Lonnie. But I guess in the moment, there really wasn't anything else he could do. The thing that really kind of puts insult to injury here is that immediately afterward, Luthen is found out anyways. Like, it didn't matter if Lonnie was discovered. Like Luthen immediately gets discovered. Deidre is at his shop, and it turns out what she's done is she has found that Star Path unit, and she's traced it all the way back to Luthen. And they actually talked about this in season 1. In season 1, they mentioned how, like, oh, something about that Star Path unit and Cassian on Ferrix, like, I was reckless. That was, it can be traced back directly to me. And sure enough, here we are all these years later. Yeah, that Star Path unit is actually what ends up doing him in, and Deidre found that. So, for anyone questioning this, because I did see some people question this, later on in these episodes, Krennic does talk about how Deidre had to access all these files concerning the Death Star that she was not supposed to know about, by the way. She was not supposed to have those files, but she accessed them because the Star Path unit was involved somehow at some point, and she used that as a key to figuring out who Axis was, and that's how she knows to go to Luthen. But that's also what ends up ruining Deidre's thing, and we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, yeah, Deidre's there at the shop. Luthen ends up stabbing himself, and I didn't know what he was gonna do. I didn't know if he was gonna, like, try to stab her or have a blaster hidden somewhere. But he ends up stabbing himself, that way he can't give away any information. And they rush him to the hospital to try and save his life. And I know part of me was like, okay, they're not going to make him a Jedi. They're not going to make him any kind of crazy twist. But then Tony Gilroy came out the other day and he said in some interview, like, oh, you're going to find out everything about Luthen in these last 3 episodes. And I was like, well, if you're saving it for the last 3 episodes, it's got to be something crazy, right? Like, that was my thinking at the time. So even then, I allowed myself to be like, maybe he will be a Jedi. Wouldn't that be like, it would feel very out of place for this series to have that kind of twist. That's very much something that The Mandalorian would do, have a character be a secret Jedi the whole time. But the fact that they saved his backstory until now, I was like, I don't know, maybe that's actually what they'll do. But they didn't. Anyways, so he's at the hospital. Clea is on her own. She sneaks into the hospital in a really great sequence, and Clea really got the spotlight, like, these first 2 episodes. She got to be like the main character of the show, which is good because she's always a character who's been like, you can tell that she's got a lot of smarts, but she's always been like in the background, even in the background of Luthen. Like, she talks to some of the main characters every once in a while, but she's never seen as the one in charge. She's never seen as someone who, like, actually gets to call any shots, except when she's alone with Luthen, and you can see, like, oh no, she is kind of in charge of the situation. Like, she talks him in and out of stuff all the time, so she's kind of the one pulling the strings here. So it's cool that she actually got to star in this finale, and like, this is about me and I'm gonna do this mission, and she's really cool. Now after this, she gets to settle down on Yavin and she lives. So I don't know if she goes on more Rebel missions or if she's, like, retiring. Either way, I would watch a Clea, like, mini comic series or something like that. I don't know. I'd read a book about Clea. Like, what did she do for the rebellion after this? Because she's really good at her job. So I don't know. It feels like you got someone very capable there, and she's still there on Yavin base. So I don't know. Let's make something happen there. That's kind of fun. Anyways, so she ends up having to take the oxygen thing off Luthen, and he ends up dying, and very sad because that was basically her dad. And Luthen is gone. Rip Luthen. And this, over the course of the next 2 episodes, they'll have, like, a lot of those moments where Cassian and Vix and Cassian and Mon Mothma and, all these different pairings of characters kind of, like, Rip Luthen, he's gone, and they all drink to him. And Willman is especially affected by this, by the way, which I found kind of interesting, because Willman, we never see him really interact with Luthen. Like, he talks about it in the last arc, but we never actually get to see any of that. So I don't know. Luthen was, like, really, like, on Luthen's side. So it hits him pretty hard. Anyways, yeah, basically Andor goes to go rescue Clea on Coruscant, completely against the rules, which, you know, we were kind of warned about last arc, and now here we are a year later saying like, hey, look, there are going to be consequences. You can't just keep leaving. And of course he does this in Rogue One, so kind of kind of like that's just his thing, you know. I'm going to leave the base and I'm going to get in trouble for it later, but it's the right thing to do. So that's Cassian Andor for you. They should probably just accept that that's what he's gonna do, right? Like, still get him in trouble, but be like, just go, Cassian. We know you're gonna go anyways. Just go, okay? Just do the hero thing. That's what you do. So another cool sequence of them going down to this. You know, we get to see kind of a shadier apartment building where their hideout has been this whole time, and rescue Clea. You know, K2SO gets to really shine here, throw around a bunch of stormtroopers. Deidre's replacement, basically, that guy who kind of sucks, he gets held up by K2SO and used as a body armor, or as a human shield, I mean, and like he just everyone just guns him down, like, even though K2SO is like holding him up, like they don't care at all. Like, that guy just gets obliterated. Pretty nuts. Anyways, they rescue her. They manage to convince her to come to Yavin. They get the word to everyone on Yavin, and of course they don't really believe it, but I forget what his name is trying to contact Andor on Kafrene, and so they finally allow Andor to go, and that's basically where we see it lead directly into Rogue One. Let's see, we got a lot of great Deidre and Dr. Krennic moments there. Deidre's basically in trouble because she accessed all the Death Star information, which she was not supposed to have, and of course led to Luthen and the Rebellion knowing about it. And so they're basically accusing her of being a spy, and if not being a spy, just being very incompetent, right? The fact that she held on to all this information. If she had just remembered to delete it, or just like, hey, I have a bunch of stuff I'm not supposed to know about, then she would be fine, maybe, I don't know. But we basically see Deidre getting eaten by the very machine that she has been helping this whole time, and she's thrown in prison, like the same prison like station that Andor was on in season 1. So they're building something there, I guess. But Deidre, yeah, that makes sense for Deidre's character. Not everyone needs to die. Some people just need to go to prison forever, and she's probably never ever gonna make it out of there. So that's crazy. Let's see, and then we get Partagast, the ISB director Partagast. Now this was also pretty nuts. So I guess he's also gonna have to fall on the sword because of everything that Deidre leaked, and Krennic even says like, hey, I can't save you, right? So I guess no matter what, he was gonna go probably get executed by the Empire, just because of Deidre. I guess, I'm not sure, like he didn't really play any more part than that with that situation, but that's what's happening. Anyways, so he ends up shooting himself. I don't know what YouTube's gonna allow. He you know, he is no longer amongst the living because of himself. There you go. And it's pretty crazy. So, you know, new ISB director, I guess, and this is kind of just showing like what the Empire does, right? Like, even no matter how high up you get, like there's always someone above you. I mean, you know, it's Palpatine, and you're all expendable. Like, the second you're no longer useful, or the second you mess up a little bit too much, it doesn't matter how long you've been around, how loyal you were, it doesn't matter. You're gonna get eaten by this machine, because that's what it does. The Empire eats, you know? And it's like the perfect summation of like what the Empire is, by having Deidre, who, she broke the rules, but she ultimately did the right thing. She gets eaten by the machine, whereas Andor breaks the rules for the Rebellion just to do the right thing. You know, okay, Deidre's doing the right thing from her perspective. I want to make that clear. Not literally the right thing. Anyways, Andor breaks the rules to do the right thing, and ultimately, like, the Rebellion's not happy about it, but they have to be like, fine, he did the right thing, whatever. You know, like, they're not gonna, like, kill him for it. So yeah, pretty crazy. And ultimately we see Bix. Bix is back on, I forget what the name of the planet is, the wheat planet, the gladiator, the gladiator planet, with all the wheat. Anyways, and B2 is still there, and Bix is gonna take care of him, and Bix is walking in the field, and she's holding a baby. And I guess we're supposed to assume that this baby is at least 1 year old, because it's Cassian's baby. And I heard some people talk about how, okay, look, the implication here being like, hey, there is a future, right? Like, there's babies represent like the future, hope, right? Like, we can defeat the Empire, the next generation will get to be free. Like, that's the whole thing here, right? Symbolically. I have heard some discussion from some female fans of the show and not being particularly happy about this, because it does kind of relegate Bix to just being like, oh, she's a mom, like that's, and I get it, because I do agree. I do feel like Bix was weirdly underutilized in the show, and she was also like heavily traumatized. Like it felt at times like they just kept putting her character through the ringer, just like, here, and then this happens to her, and then this happens to her, and then at the end they're like, but now she's a mom. Like, I don't know. I can understand if that makes some people feel weird about the whole Bix situation, because I agree. I'm like, kind of felt like Bix should be, she should be in on the action and making like the crazy decisions. But okay, all right. Anyways, I didn't really mind it, but I've heard some discussion out there, and I'm like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's Andor. An amazing series. In a lot of ways, these 3 episodes felt sort of like an epilogue, because we know we have to put the pieces right in the right order to get to Rogue One, but it feels like they really, really nailed it, and I'm just super happy with the way everything turned out. I don't know. Will we ever get another Tony Gilroy Star Wars project? I don't know. Maybe after this one, like after, I'm sure it's gonna win some kind of awards, and Lucasfilm will be like, okay, we got to get that guy back. But ultimately, I'm happy that we got this. I'm definitely gonna go watch Rogue One today, because it, hopefully it does feel like I literally just turned on the next episode, and then here we are. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Let me know what you guys think about Andor, these last 3 episodes, the show in general. Any of your favorite little Easter eggs or mentions or drops or whatever that happened. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.